So welcome again. We will be reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, chapter number 9, and our verse is verse number 34. So let's begin reciting the verse. It's a 3-line. So Maitat prarthitam vyartham chikitseva gatayushi prasadya jagadatmanam tapasa dushprasadanam bhavachiddam ayachayaham bhavam bhagya vivarjitah mayaitat prarthitam vyartham chikitseva gatayushi prasadaya jagatatmanam tapasa dushprasadanam bhavachiddam ayachayaham bhavam bhagya vivarjitah mayaitat prarthitam vyartham chikitseva Gatayushi prasadya jagat atmanam tapasa durprasadanam bhavachitram ayachayaham bhavam bhagya vivarjitah. Are there any volunteers to read this?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Pranam.
Can I read the verse?
Please, Prabhuji, please.
Hare Krishna. Maya itat prarthitam vyartam chititsheva gatayushi prasadaya jagat atmanam tapasha dushprasadanam bhavachittam ayachiham bhavam bhakta vivarjita. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Is there anybody else who would like to read?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Mayaitat prarthitam vyartham chikitseva gatayushi prasadya jagatatmanam tapasa dushprasadanam bhavachidam ayacheyaham bhavam bhagya vivarjitah. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Very beautiful.
Mataji, can I try?
Please, Prabhu.
Maitat prarthitam vyartham chikitseva gatayushi prasadya jagadatmanam tapasa dushprasadanam bhavachidam ayachaham bhavam bhagya vivarjitah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, I am trying.
Yes, Mataji.
Bhaita parthitam vyartha chikitsevo gatayushi prasadya jagat atmanam tapasa dusprasadanam bhavachida maya cheham bhavam bhaga vivarjita. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you. So let's read the synonyms. Maya, by me. Etad, this. Prarthitam, prayed for. Vyartham, uselessly. Chikitsa, treatment. Eva, like. Gata, has ended. Ayushi, for one whose life. Prasadya, after satisfying. Jagat Atmanam, the soul of the universe. Tapasa, by austerity. Dushprasadanam, who is very difficult to satisfy. Bhavachiddam, the personality of Godhead who can cut the chain of birth and death. Ayache, prayed for. Aham, I. Bhavam, repetition of birth and death. Bhagya, fortune. Vivarjitaha, being without. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Is there any volunteer who would like to read the translation and purport?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Krishna Prabhuji.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. It is very difficult to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But in my case, although I have satisfied the super soul of the whole universe, I have prayed only for useless things. My activities were exactly like treatment given to a person who is already dead. Just see how unfortunate I am, for in spite of meeting the Supreme Lord, who can cut one's link with birth and death, I have prayed for the same conditions again. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sometimes it so happens that a devotee engaged in the loving service of the Lord desires some material benefit in exchange for this service. This is not the proper way to discharge devotional service. Out of ignorance, of course, sometimes a devotee does so, but Dhruva Maharaj regrets his personal behavior in this connection. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So let's have a let's have a quick review of why Srila Prabhupada is saying Dhruva Maharaj regrets his personal behavior in this connection. So the overview of the chapter was the first 5 verses where Dhruva Maharaj actually meets the Lord, and then as he meets the Lord, the Lord appears before him and empowers Dhruv to speak. And as Dhruv Maharaj offers his beautiful prayers in the following verses after verse 1 to 5, they're like around 11 verses where Dhruv Maharaj is offering his prayers. And as Dhruv Maharaj offers his prayers, the Lord bestows benedictions to Dhruv Maharaj. And then Dhruv Maharaj feels regretful. And as he feels regretful, under this regret, he's feeling this lamentation. So we've been learning from verse 30 till today and tomorrow as well, that these verses are lamentation series of Dhruv Maharaj. And Dhruv Maharaj first says that he attained the rarest, but fell. So because Dhruv Maharaj just attained the shade of Lord's lotus feet in just 6 months, which nobody else can get. Not even the Kumaras could attain after many, many births. And he fell from this position because he had some other desires, which mentions prithak matihi. He had opposite intelligence. So, and then the next verse says that Dhruv Maharaj desired perishable things. And then he says, the demigods bewildered his intelligence. And there was the influence of Maya, where he was sleeping in the lap of Maya. And he was under the vision of duality. Like yesterday, Prabhuji beautifully gave us the insight on how this duality was affecting Dhruv Maharaj, where Dhruv Maharaj saw his brother as his enemy, and he falsely lamented. And in this verse, he's saying that he's praying for useless things. I've prayed only for useless things. And in this verse, he also says that these useless things are like medicine given to a dead person, treatment given to a dead person. And he mentions that he was able to satisfy the Lord very easily, which is very, very difficult. But how devoid of fortune he is. He feels that he prayed for material enjoyment and he is devoid of fortune. So let's get into this translation and purport after our little prayers to our spiritual masters, so that we can get a better insight after the revision from Lamentation series. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Vir Krishna Das Goswami Niti Namine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaurabani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunnavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Srila Gurudev ki Jai. So as we read the translation again, it is very difficult to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But in my case, although I have satisfied the super soul of the whole universe, I have prayed only for useless things. My activities were exactly like treatment given to a person who is already dead. Just see how unfortunate I am, for in spite of meeting the Supreme Lord, who can cut one's link with birth and death, I have prayed for the same conditions. In the next verse also, Dhruv Maharaj says, because of his ignorance, he could ask only a few broken grains of husked rice. And if we actually see, let's divide this translation into many questions, the questions that have expanded itself. So how is it difficult to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead? That's the first question. Or why is it difficult to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead? How and why is it difficult to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead? The second question is, what is Dhruv Maharaj's mood in this verse? Third question comes as, what does it mean? My activities were exactly like treatment given to a person who's already dead. Fourth question is, why is Dhruv Maharaj unfortunate? This is for anyone who has picked up Srimad Bhagavatam. This is a very, very fortunate situation that Dhruv Maharaj, in his 6 months of austerities, he's able to see the Lord. How is he feeling unfortunate when he has actually seen, he has had a beautiful vision of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead? And why is he feeling like a fool? Why this feeling of this foolish, I am foolish, this feeling, why is he experiencing this feeling? So let's unfold these questions and have our responses to this. So how and why is it difficult to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Is there any volunteer who would like to answer this? Okay, so it is difficult to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead because we maintain material desires. The reason of this difficulty is because of our maintaining material desires. And what is Dhruv Maharaj's mood in this verse? The next question. This mood is the mood of repentance. It's lamentation mood. He is lamenting, he's repenting. But why is he repenting? He's repenting because in the next line he says, my activities were exactly like treatment given to a person who's already dead. What good is going to come? Will the dead person be alive if he's given any treatment? No. And his condition, why am I, or how unfortunate I am, this indicates that he's very, very humbled. He's very humbled because he very well knows that the desires that he came forward with was material, without realizing how insignificant these desires were. And he's mentioning that Dhruv Maharaj mentions very clearly that in spite of meeting the Supreme Lord, who can do much more, who can actually cut the link with birth and death. He can just free us at any moment. But we pray for the same conditions, same material desires again and again and again. So let's imagine if Krishna appears in front of us, what are we going to ask? That's a question we can think about. What are we going to ask? Because it's very difficult to relate with Krishna. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada clearly mentions that it happens that a devotee engaged in the loving service of the Lord desires some material benefits in exchange for this service. So here we are understanding that what is the importance of lamentation. Why is this lamentation taking place? So what is the importance of this lamentation? Lord Sri Krishna explains that very nicely to Uddhav in Canto 11. And in the purport, Srila Jiva Goswami has analyzed these Canto 11, chapter 20, some of the verses very, very beautifully. And he says that every living entity is every living entity's condition is the same. And what is his condition? He is Paratattva Vimukha, which means he's showing his back to the spiritual energy. Why? Because he has forgotten his relationship with Krishna. And how is he going to self-learn? It's very difficult to self-learn. We can't learn anything by ourselves. So, because we have no information and we've forgotten our relationship, we have no information either of material learnings or spiritual learnings. So we need a teacher. We need books. We need scriptures. So because the ultimate essence of all the Shastras, the benefit that the Shastras are giving is to transform this Vimukha state, the state where, the forgetful state where we are showing our back to facing situation. So to Sanmukha stage. So this is very interesting. So Shastras actually brings the living entity into that consciousness of that alienated state to a state of recognition. This is the essence of Shastras. So because the living entity's condition, because we are alienated from the spiritual understanding, and we are very much attracted to the material activities, the Shastras bring us in any way, yena kena prakarena, in any way, to make us remember Krishna this way, that way. So essentially, there are two pathways that Shastras provide us. And what are those two pathways of God realization, of realizing Krishna, or being in connection with Krishna? The first pathway is Jnana Marga, Jnana pathway. Jnana pathway is limited to, not always, but limited to, if until and unless bhakti is taken, to God realization, but only in incomplete form, which is Brahman realization, and or Paramatma realization. And there's this other pathway, which is bhakti pathway. So there are two paths where we can have God realization. One is jnana and the other one is bhakti. Bhakti path is Bhagavan realization. Now the difference between these two margas or these two paths are, one, Gyan has no variety. Gyan wants renunciation. Bhakti has a lot of variety, and that we can see as in chapter 15, Krishna mentions that this material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. So therefore, we are very fond of varieties. And because of these, we see that there's this huge variety of exchanges, reciprocation, not only in the material world, but in the spiritual world as well. So, sorry, not in the spiritual world only, but in the material world as well. So because spiritual world is bigger, the varieties are bigger there. So let's see, to attain these two margs, to attain these two pathways, jnana and bhakti, there is one common factor. And what is that one common factor? The door to progress in jnana or bhakti, one has to give up the results of karma. So the karma yoga actually works in this way. To either be in the path of jnana or be in the path of bhakti, one has to give up the results of all his material activities. Now, until and unless these results are given up, we cannot take either of the two together. Like we can't maintain the two together. Why? Because our condition is not such. We are conditioned beings. We can't maintain. It's not possible at all to maintain. So in order to properly practice Jnana Marg or Bhakti Marg, one has to have the understanding of giving up the results of his material actions, of the results of this all his activities, which Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita. So let's understand this from Canto 11, chapter number 20. Where is this here? So Krishna mentions, Krishna gives instructions to Uddhava here. And in this, Shri Bhagavana Uvacha, Yogastrayo Maya Prokta Nrinam Shreyo Vidhitsaya Gnanam Karmacha Bhaktischa Napayonyo anyosti kutrachit. Here, the Lord says, my dear Uddhav, because I desire that human beings may achieve perfection, I have presented 3 paths of advancement. The path of knowledge, that is Gyan, the path of work, and the path of devotion. And besides these 3, there's absolutely no other means of elevation. There's nothing else we may hope for. There's nothing else. Gyan or bhakti, and these can be achieved only when we give our results to any of these paths. So Krishna also tells this in Bhagavad Gita, ye yatha mam prapatyante, where when all of them as they surrender to me. If they surrender 10%, I reward them 10%. So, and then everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritham. So here we mention, here we understand that, we see that how Krishna has described the three processes. So let's read this section from the purport. Lord Krishna has here describes the 3 authorized processes together in order to emphasize that their ultimate goal is one, to attain Krishna. But these processes are very difficult apart from bhakti. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work binds one to the material world. And in the process of jnana, one seeks impersonal liberation by merging into the glaring effulgence of the personality of Godhead. And such liberation is considered hellish by the devotees because they lose all awareness of the supreme blissful feature of the Lord. So this process, these 2 processes are very dangerous. These processes are very dangerous and uncertain. And Krishna very well, Srila Prabhupada has, even in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 1, verse 1, Srila Prabhupada did not waste any time telling anyone who has picked the book must take up to devotional service. Why? Because devotional service is the most rewarding, easy, and it has the ability that anyone can do devotional service. So the devotees directly aim for love of God and therefore most pleasing to the Supreme Lord. In any case, all 3 divisions of Vedic elevation depend completely on the mercy of the Lord. That's the main point here. Everything depends on the mercy of Lord Krishna. One cannot progress along any one of these paths without the blessing of the Lord. So here we come to this context of Dhruva Maharaj, where Dhruva Maharaj is saying, I'm unfortunate. So why is Dhruva Maharaj unfortunate? What is the context here? The context of Dhruva Maharaj feeling unfortunate is he is doing Jnana Mishra Bhakti. Karma Mishra Bhakti. So he's a mixed devotee. He has come with a desire, and that desire what was his goal? His goal was not to be in loving devotional service to the Lord. His goal was to get a kingdom bigger than his grandfather. And in this goal, the desire is quite clear. He himself knows what he was looking for. So in this context, we see that Dhruva Maharaj was not a pure devotee, right? At this stage, he's not a pure devotee. And because he has seen God, because he now values the association of devotees, he now values the loving devotional relationship with the Lord. Therefore, this lamentation has taken up. So at this stage, he is not pure, but he is working to become a pure devotee. Therefore, he has this realization that why I have been asking for all these things. I prayed for the same conditions again. Why? And if this, to understand further on the Gyan and Gyan and Bhakti and how are we supposed to work on this reference to the next verse in this same chapter, it says, Nirvinanam Jnana Yogo Nyashinam Iha Karmashu. So let's focus on the first two lines first. Among these paths, Jnana Yoga, the path of philosophical speculation, is recommended for those who are disgusted with material life and are thus detached from the ordinary fruitive activities. So this is the renunciation path. So Jnana Yoga is a renunciation path. Then comes the Teshva Anirvinna Chittanam Karma Yogastu Kaminam. But there's another pathway here which says those who are not disgusted with material life, having many desires yet to fulfill, should seek perfection through the path of Karma Yoga. So we are in the middle, basically. If we actually understand, Gyan Marg wants, why is it easy to practice Bhakti Yoga? Because Gyan Marg wants renunciation, and Karma Marg is based on attachment. Okay, now how are we supposed to? Gyan Marg is not for householders. They can't renounce everything and leave, because they'll lose the charm of living. How are they going to take care of their families if there's not even slight attachment to them? So Gyan Marg is not recommended for the ones in household life. And Karma Yoga is basically, Karma Yoga is full of attachments, and it requires a lot of opulence. It requires a lot of material opulence, where you can practice Karma Yoga by performing sacrifices. Where do we have that much resources? We don't have those material resources with us. So Krishna very nicely gives us a middle path. And the middle path is Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga, let's go to the next verse, where Krishna's will get guarantees from the words of Krishna, where we see, if somehow or other by good fortune one can develop faith in hearing and chanting my glories, such a person, being neither disgusted nor very much attached to material life, should achieve perfection through the path of loving devotional service to me. So very beautifully, we get this guarantee that even if we have material desires, it's okay. It's okay. We don't have to be perfect in Jnana Yoga. We don't have to be perfect in Karma Yoga. But this middle path, which is Bhakti Yoga, can be practiced by each and every one. Now, this puts us, why? Because Bhakti is supremely independent. If Krishna is supremely independent, Bhakti is supremely independent. But what is required to do Bhakti? What is required to do Bhakti?
So, proper attitude, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji. Yes, Prabhuji. Proper attitude and chanting. And how does it come? The innumerable. It comes. Yes, Prabhu, sorry.
In the association of devotees.
Yes, it comes from the association of devotees. And how the association of what association of devotee does to us? The association of devotees bring faith. which is the underlying factor here. Without faith, we can't practice devotional service. So these verses actually bring us a lot of guarantee that, okay, our path is not wrong. This very clearly tells us that this path, Bhakti Yoga, is a beautiful path where even if we come with material desires, we associate with devotees. We come with little faith, we associate with devotees. The first ladder is Shraddha, then Sadhu Sangha, then Anartha Nivriti. So Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Anartha Nivriti, when these are taken into account, automatically the Shraddha becomes, it's not like we just finish those, if we are practicing Shraddha in the association of Sadhu Sangha, Anartha Nivriti happens. It's not an eliminating process where Shraddha goes, then Sadhu Sangha goes. It's just an additional process where the Shraddha becomes stronger, Sadhu Sangha becomes merrier, Anartha Nivriti more and more. So in Bhakti Yoga, things just they multiply in bliss, and that's why they award real happiness. In Bhakti Yoga, there's no process of negation. No, if this happens, the next step. So a candidate for devotional service does not have to give up any hope, Srila Prabhupada says. A candidate for devotional service does not give up all hope for perfecting personal existence. This is very, very reassuring. When we were reading Lamentations, we may think that, oh, I'm lamenting. Dhruv Maharaj is lamenting. So what is my condition? My condition is poorer than. But from those, so lamentation is good. Lamentation is good because lamentation brings us hope that we are in the right path. That lamentation of Dhruv Maharaj is giving him that humility to experience the beauty of bhakti. Otherwise, the contract is over. If we take it that way, he comes, he meditates, he performs austerities, Krishna gives him what he desires, and then he goes away. He goes back to his kingdom, he gets all the benediction. Then the whole reciprocation is missing in this. And if somebody actually in any way happens to see Krishna or his pure devotees, definitely the bhakti has to be imbibed in him. There will be drop of bhakti, or there'll be some bhakti in him. So therefore, we see Dhruv Maharaj's condition is Mishra Bhakti, moving forward, moving to pure bhakti. So the only thing is we don't have to really pick up one extreme and lament on anything. So I'll come back to the point of what happens with the association of devotees. Our faith gets stronger. As our faith gets stronger, we are in the process of anartha nivriti. Now, I'll just ask one last question here. Is there any qualification that's needed for bhakti? Is there any qualification that is required for bhakti?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Mataji, humbleness.
Humility, yes, definitely humility is required. But do you require a lot of knowledge to do bhakti?
No.
We definitely don't require. So then what is our biggest problem? We don't require any qualification, basically. So what is the problem that
desire?
We are carrying? Yes, Prabhuji, we are carrying material desires. And because we are carrying material desires, the problem is there. So here in Uddhav Gita, Krishna very nicely informs Uddhav, saying that having awakened faith in the narrations of my glories, being disgusted with all material activities, knowing that all sense gratification leads to misery, but still being able to renounce all sense enjoyment, my devotee should remain happy and worship me with great faith and conviction. So this guarantees us again, even though he's sometimes engaged in sense enjoyment, my devotee knows that all sense gratification leads to a miserable result, and he sincerely repents such activities, which is happening with Dhruva Maharaj right now. So we can learn, we can definitely learn. We are in a very, Dhruva Maharaj is guilt-stricken, but we can't be guilt-stricken, and Dhruva Maharaj also can't be just guilt-stricken. Dhruva Maharaj's position is definitely exalted, and he is in the first stage of bhakti. In the first stage of bhakti, he attains the Lord. He comes with material desires, receives benedictions, and then at the same time, after receiving benedictions, he feels that lamentation, the regret. Krishna tells us, my devotee should remain happy and worship me with great faith. So there's no point of self-loathing on, oh, me, I'm fallen. Yeah, work on it. Great faith and conviction, work on it. Even though sometimes he's engaged in sense enjoyment, my devotees knows that sense gratification leads to miserable results. But then today we have personal motivation. For sure, tomorrow with Krishna's blessings, our spiritual master's blessings, Srila Prabhupada's blessings, we will become sincere. And in sincere, how will we become sincere? Srila Prabhupada mentions here in the first line of the purport. He says, a sincere devotee has practically seen all material activities lead only to sense gratification. All sense gratification leads only to misery. That understanding is sincerity. Therefore, when he sees that, oh, these are useless, these are fruitless things that I'm doing without any rhyme and reason, then he switches. Automatically, the material desires are switched, and he engages 24 hours in the loving service of the Lord. So whatever he does without any personal motivation. It's such an automatic process. This verse actually gives so much hope to us. And there's one more hopeful approach that we can find in Canto 2, where Krishna says, don't worry. Surrendered souls, even from groups leading to sinful lives, such as women, the laborer class, the mountaineers, the Siberians, or even the birds and beasts, can also know about the science of God and become liberated from the clutches of the illusory energy by surrendering unto the pure devotees of the Lord and by following in their footsteps in devotional service. Let's relate this to Dhruva Maharaj's situation. Dhruva Maharaj is a very young boy. He's really innocent. He's not a jnani. He's not a very he's just a little boy. And then he comes with material desires, and who does he have faith on? Where does he put his faith on? He puts faith on two people. Number one, he puts his faith on his mother. And then two, he puts faith on Narada Muni. So as he puts faith on his mother, where does the mother guide him to go? To the forest. Where? But because Lord Vishnu is going to be there. He will find Krishna there. He will find Lord Vishnu there. Narada Muni, of course, he wants to check his determination. But then he says, if you have anything else to say, please, I can't understand all this. I know I have material desires. Can you help me? So this faith is very clear. Can you help me? If you can help me, I'll follow you. If you can't, I still have material desires. So in that case, what qualification does he have to reach to this level? As such, he brings so much hope to all of us, that just that moment of surrender through faith unto the pure devotees of the Lord, and by following in the footsteps means by getting the instructions in devotional service, anyone sinful life, the ones who are living sinful lives, such as or women or laborer class or birds, beast, who not, anyone. So there's no special qualification needed to do bhakti. You don't have to have a material qualification for making progress. If anyone can do bhakti, the ones who are actually jnanis, isn't it easy for them to do bhakti? So
No.
what to talk about pure devotees who are always surrendered to the lotus feet of the Lord? What is so difficult in this process? It is all full of hope. This verse brings us, though it is a lamenting verse, it brings us to that hopeful situation that there's nothing we should be too much worried about. Even if we are today carrying our material desires, we should not take back steps. Srila Prabhupada mentions in his lectures that keep sitting on the boat. Don't, if it's an automatic process. If you keep following the path, you will reach there. But if you yourself decide to leave that, then nothing can be done. But if you keep following the path, you will get there. So what more guarantee do we need today? Krishna guarantees, Srila Prabhupada guarantees, all these scriptures guarantee, our spiritual masters guarantee. What more guarantees do we need today that we are in the right path? We are in the right path. Even if we are carrying material desires in our heart, it's okay. But because we just have to develop that sincerity of knowing that these material desires are going to be at some point fruitlessly working on us. It is not going to give us any benefit. So in that case, we just have to pray to Krishna that, please, Krishna, help me engage in your loving devotional service, which is the sum and purpose of our chanting. Our chanting tells us, the meaning of chanting is, oh, divine energy, hey Radhe, oh, the pleasure-giving potency, please engage me in the loving devotional service of the Lord. So here I would like to conclude. If there's any suggestions or additions or anything anyone would like to add or subtract, or if there's anything I have said which is not correct, please correct me here. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji.
Yeah, so from you, we just heard about this, not to be lament what we are processing in the regular activities, just follow in the same direction under the guidance of our spiritual master and the association of the devotee. Ultimately, we'll reach the goal.
Yes.
That is all about today. You have
Yes.
nicely explained and given such a good examples, the stages right from the Karma Kand, Jnana Kand, and Bhakti Kand. So all these things are nicely explained and give us the hope that not to be disappointed. Just keep moving and ultimately we'll reach the goal. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Yes, lamentation is very natural for Dhruv Maharaj because he's sincere. So this lamentation is a natural process. He's definitely feeling regretful about what he asked.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I think I have, oh, it's 8:25.
We still got 5 minutes. Anybody have any reflection? Please come forward.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Yeah, it's a nice class, and you took us from Jnana Karma to Bhakti, and it's like your guarantee. We will go to Godhead through our ISKCON board. We have to stay just as per our Srila Prabhupada instruction. Just would like to know that you tell about the Uddhav Gita, what's the number of that sloka? Can I?
It is 11th canto, chapter number 20. Chapter number 20 talks about Uddhav Gita, because chapter number 20, talks about pure devotional service. So this is Uddhav Gita. I'll tell you from where the chapter begins for Uddhav Gita.
20
is talking about pure devotional service. Yeah.
6, 7, 8 and the 3 text.
And
Yes,
last,
it talks about pure devotional service, which surpasses knowledge and detachment. So all these are instructions given to from chapter 14 it begins, like the instructions that are given to Uddhava. These are expanded instructions.
okay, the last, what's the number of the last two verses means recommended about that automation process, hopeful
6, 7,
situation.
Is it 27, 28? Are you talking about Jnana and
No, the last one, that canto 2, the hopeful situation.
oh, this is
Canto 2.
canto 2, verse number chapter 7, verse number 46.
Okay, before that, what's the verse number that from Uddhava Gita, automatic process?
I'll tell you the references I took from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 20.
Yeah.
The first reference was verses 6, 7, 8, 9, somewhere. And the second reference was Canto 11, Chapter 20, 27 and 28th verse.
Okay.
And the third reference was Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, verse number 46.
46. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Okay, it doesn't seem to be any more various questions, reflections. So we'll end here, Mati. Thank you very much for coming for this morning to give us a wonderful explanation on this verse. Such a short purport, but you have said so much insight.
Very deep meaning.
And gave us so much insight. Thank you very much, Hare Krishna.
All glory to Prabhupada, Prabhuji.
All glories to Radha Padma Mataji ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Bhakti
Kripa Sindhu eva Patitanam Papunibho Vaishnavibho Namo Namo Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. His Grace Radha Padma ki jai. Gaur Bhakti Vrinda ki
Hare
jai.
Krishna Mataji, it reminds me one example. There's some chili, small chili, that so Thailand one. It looks very small, but when you eat it, you just blast off like this. This sloka is very small. The purport is very small, but the explosion is very high.
Yeah.
Too much content in it.
That's why Srila Prabhupada has very clearly said, study his book scrutinizingly. So that's the purpose of reading Srila Prabhupada's books. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Everything comes up as one and whole. It's so beautiful. Thank you, Prabhuji, for giving us this opportunity to read, again, delve into Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Hare
Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Gaur Bhakti Vrinda ki jai.
Jai. Hari Hari Bol.